All right. Well, good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday. I am Jennifer Mitchell. I'm financial manager here at the Workforce Development Board, and this is the morning bidders conference for the Contracting Vendor Pay Agent and Employer of Record RFP for the Alameda County Workforce Development Board. So looks like just about everybody who was registered has joined us. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Want to make sure that everybody can see the document. Nod your head, thumbs up, and we will get rolling. So again, this is the bidders conference for the Contracting Vendor Pay Agent RFP. RFP
I'll
number
figure out what he has actually, so he can go or not.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
he has some kind of neurologist in his neurologist.
You're good. You can continue. I'm
Okay.
here.
Thanks. Thank you. All right, RFP number CVPER 2026. The RFP was released on December 22nd, 2025, it should say. So it's been out for a couple of weeks, so hopefully everyone has had a chance to review and take a look at it. The deadline is January 30th, 2026 by 5 p.m. In the office. So that means a physical copy needs to be submitted in person in our offices at 24100 Amador Street, Suite 610C in Hayward. That's on the 6th floor. So we'll go ahead and move on. Pardon my scrolling. There's an overview of the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act for those of you who aren't familiar, and the Alameda County Workforce Board's role in overseeing and administering a workforce development system in our local area. Our local area is all of Alameda County, excluding the city of Oakland. We are requesting proposals for delivery of contracting vendor pay agent and employer of record services. Eligible organizations include public, private, nonprofit, community-based organization, local education agencies, also includes for-profit. I'm going to jump ahead here to the calendar of events. As you can see, RFP was released on December 22nd. Here we are today at the bidders conferences. We have one this morning from 10 to noon and another this afternoon from 2 to 4. Bidders conferences are not required. They are not mandatory, but they are recommended. Any questions are due in writing tomorrow by 5 p.m. to acwdb.acgov.org. And then we will post the questions and answers that we have received by January 15th. Proposals are due again January 30th, 2026 by 5 p.m. Physically in our office. The evaluation and recommendation period for committees will be in February, with award recommendations going to the full Alameda County Workforce Development Board in March, and then on to the Board of Supervisors for approval of the contract in the March to June timeframe, with a contract start date of July 1st. Available funding. This is a 4-year procurement cycle. A standard services agreement with the county will be awarded for that 4-year period, with funds awarded on an annual basis. So it will result in a 1-year award of funding. And then funding will be renewed annually for 3 additional years based on performance and funding availability. We estimate that the total contract amount will be approximately, on an annual basis, will be approximately $1.25 million. That may change up or down depending on our receipt of funding from the state for WIOA and any other discretionary grants. Of that $1.25 million, somewhere between $1 million and $1.1 million of that will be essentially pass-through funds for payment of either project staffing or under the employer of record function, or contract payments through the contracting vendor pay agent function. In terms of the scope, an important thing to note is that, again, when we say contracting vendor pay agent, that is exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about having an organization act in an agency role for the Workforce Development Board. All decision-making will be done by the Workforce Development Board. So any procurement requirements, selection of contractors, selection of project staff, etc., will be done by the Workforce Development Board. And then that action will be authorized by the Workforce Board to the selected contractor, who will then perform those functions on behalf of the Workforce Board. And there's a little bit more here on the top of this page about the difference between the two functions. The contracting vendor pay agent, the role will be to contract with and reimburse training providers, participating employers, and other designated vendors on behalf of the Workforce Board. As employer of record, the contractor will provide payroll services and ensure compliance with applicable documentation and personnel record keeping requirements. A little more specific information regarding the contracting vendor pay agent role. There are 4 primary functions under the contracting vendor pay agent function. The largest will be the processing of individual training accounts. For those who aren't familiar with WIOA, these are contracts entered into between the contracting vendor pay agent and specific training vendors, training providers for individual WIOA participants. And all of the ITA training vendors must be listed on the state's eligible training provider list. And the contracting vendor pay agent will verify the contract information that is sent to them by the Workforce Board and enter into, again, a contracting arrangement with the individual training provider for the specific participants' training. And then we'll provide payment to that vendor upon invoice and compliance with training requirements under WIOA. Also, there are on-the-job training agreements. On-the-job training agreements are training agreements entered into with specific employers. The employer agrees to hire a WIOA participant in exchange for reimbursement of a portion of that participant's wages during the term of the OJT. There's 2 parts to an OJT. The first is a master OJT agreement, which is a contractual agreement between the employer and the contracting vendor pay agent on behalf of the workforce board. And then once that agreement is in place, there will be individual referrals for specific participants to be employed by the OJT employer. I mentioned eligible training providers. Again, the state of California maintains a list of approved eligible training providers. The providers must be on that list in order for an ITA to be issued. The contractor will also be responsible under this RFP and the resulting contract for managing the ETPL itself. There is a responsibility for, again, management of a portion of the ETPL and some processes with the ETPL that will be carried out by the selected provider. In addition, there will be various vendor contracts for goods and services, other types of training projects, cohort training, customized training for specific employers, some system support for the East Bay Works system, and other various and assorted training. And so those will be individual contracts that the contracting vendor pay agent will be required to enter into, again, on behalf of the workforce board. The employer of record function, the selected contractor will, again, hire selected project staff. Project staff will be hired on an as-needed basis for limited duration projects, generally speaking, under various discretionary grants that the workforce board receives. The Alameda County Workforce Board will be responsible for recruitment. We will develop job descriptions. We will do all of the interviewing and the selection of the individuals. The employer of record contractor function, the selected contractor will hire those selected individuals, do all onboarding, new hire documentation, etc. And payroll until such time as that project term ends. And will maintain all required documentation and do any required year-end reporting, payroll deductions, etc. Coordination of services. Again, this is the Workforce Board manages a system of employment and training services within the Alameda County Workforce Development Area. So the selected provider of the employer of record and contracting vendor pay agent services will be required to coordinate the provision of and delivery of services with various direct service providers who are also under contract with the Workforce Board. We have contracts with 8 or 9 different organizations within the county who provide, again, those direct services, case management, eligibility enrollment, etc., for program participants under WIOA and, again, various discretionary grants. They work directly with the participants. And so there is a lot of coordination that goes on between the Workforce Board, the direct service providers, and the selected contracting vendor pay agent and employer of record. County contacts. Again, any questions that you have as a result of the bidders conference or your review of the RFP are due to our office preferably via email, in writing by 5 p.m. tomorrow. The email address is here, acwdb@acgov.org. And we'll turn around the answers to those questions via addendum next week by January 15th. If for whatever reason you don't have a copy of the RFP yet, it's available on our website. If you have issues accessing the documents, please contact Alex Chung. And his contact information is here. Okay, so we'll move on to submittal of bids. And again, a physical copy is due by January 30th, 5 p.m. And there is the delivery address information. We cannot accept late bids. We will provide you with a receipt for your bid when we receive it in the office. Again, please don't miss the deadline because we are bound to that 5 p.m. due date and time. Okay, response format, we'll go over that a little bit more when we get to the response packet. The proposal review and award process is here at the bottom of page 11. Once proposals are received, we will do a preliminary review at the staff level to make sure that the proposals are complete and meet the minimum qualifications. We will then forward the packets to an outside review panel who will do their rating and review and return that rating and review to us. The recommendations will be based on recommendation for award will be based solely on the aggregate scores from the review panel. That the highest bidder then will be recommended to the Workforce Board Executive Committee in February. It is a public meeting. Any bidders who wish to address the Executive Committee at their public meeting in February may do so. Once the recommendation is approved by the Executive Committee recommendation will move forward to the full board at their meeting in March. And again, that meeting is a public meeting. Bidders are encouraged to attend. And during the public comment period, bidders may speak to the board at that time. Evaluation and scoring. Again, there is an evaluation process, a scoring rubric. The available points are from 0 to 100. Bidders' proposals must receive a minimum score of 75 points to be eligible for funding. But the highest score will be the one that is recommended. The county has a policy for small, local, and emerging businesses. SLEB, the acronym. Contractors may receive additional points, and that is listed here at the bottom of page 14. Bidders will receive an additional 5% preference if they are a local business with verification, and an additional 5% if they are approved as a small and local emerging business. by the county. So for those of you who are SLEB certified with the county, there are additional preference points that are awarded on top of the points granted by the review panel. The review panel itself, again, it's an outside review panel. Alameda County Workforce Board staff do not evaluate the proposals. We work with, generally speaking, staff from other local workforce boards or staff who have from other areas or organizations who do not have a conflict of interest, but do have experience in workforce development and employment and training programs. Then we'll talk about the award process. Again, funding recommendations will be presented to ACWDB Executive Committee in February, and then on to the full board for approval in March. The aggregate scores for any proposals that met the minimum qualifications and were reviewed by the review panel. Those aggregate scores will be presented to both the executive committee and the full board. Again, it's a public meeting. Both are public meetings. And bidders are welcome to speak to the board or its committees during those public meetings. The presentation of information cannot include written materials, no handouts. Again, we recommend that you attend, after the selection is made at the local board, a notice of intent to award non-award will be sent to all bidders. With contracts starting July 1st. Here on page 16, it begins an outline of the protest and appeal process. And highlights the basis for appeal. So if there is an appeal, the action of the board must be either at variance with the law, or it must contravene or contradict current WDB or county policy. And here are the timelines and contact information for submitting an appeal. And then the remainder of the RFP document is essentially county boilerplate and compliance requirements for contracting with the county, the award process, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not going to go over that. As you have questions, please put those into the chat so that we have a recorded record and have those in writing so that we can address them during the Q&A that will be issued on January 15th. So I'm going to stop sharing here and move on then to the RFP packet itself, the response packet, I should say. Okay, so here is the response packet. Again, responses due January 30th, 2026 by 5 p.m. Here is the response checklist. Please use it. We would not want your proposals to be rejected and not evaluated because they are incomplete or do not meet the response format requirements or do not include signatures or specific documents. And again, 2 copies, original proposals signed in blue ink, due in the office by 5 o'clock, January 30th. So the checklist itself, we do ask that you sign it and return it with your proposal package. The cover letter gives us your organization's information, funds being requested, specific contact information, and then the acceptance form, which lets us know that you have read the documents and reviewed these county policies and requirements. And then there is a signature again here. And this also lets us know about your SLEB participation or certification. Bidder minimum qualification. This is again, let us know in writing that you do meet the minimum qualifications for submitting a bid. If you have any SLEB certifications, you would attach them here, etc. The intent here is not to have you duplicate information that is required or requested in other parts of the response packet, but simply to address that you do meet the minimum qualifications of the RFP. And again, SLEB information on page 8. And this is that you are a certified SLEB or not a certified SLEB, and then signature. Any exceptions to SLEB. This is your agency summary sheet, which just lets us know what type of organization you are. And then this is the written section, agency description, 1 page. Each section has a page limit. Your administrative organizational capacity, 25 points, 10 pages allowed. Your demonstrated performance and ability, 40 points, 10 pages allowed. Flow chart showing how you plan to process contracts, whether OJTs, ITAs, or goods and services, and employer of record from recruitment for selection by workforce board through onboarding, etc. And then the budget proposal and fiscal management, 35 points, and 5 pages are allowed. We do ask for a staffing chart for key staff who would be involved in the provision of services. And then the bid acknowledgement form. Please read it in its entirety, fill it out and sign it. The bid form, again, this is your budget detail. And again, please read and follow the instructions here carefully. This goes back to what I talked about at the beginning. What we want here is, although the contract itself, we estimate will be approximately $1.25 million, for the budgeting process, what we would like to do is for you to tell us what your costs will be to administer, manage, pay, process, etc., approximately $1.1 million in vendor, contract, and employee payments. So who are your staff, positions, FTEs, your non-personnel costs do not include the $1.1 million in payments that you will be made. We just want to know what is the cost for your organization to process $1.1 million worth of vendor, contract, and employee payments. 2 pages are allowed. on that one. And then debarment and suspension. Please make sure you sign it. And then references. And again, certification regarding lobbying, the federal funding requirement, first source information. And then Exhibit J is also needs a signature. So that is the entirety of the RFP response packet. I'm going to stop sharing. So that completes the presentation part of things. Again, any questions that you have here, please make sure that you enter them in the chat, or you can submit them after we're done here to acwdb@acgov.org. They will all be included in the Q&A document that will be published as an addendum to this RFP on the ACWDB website by January 15th, end of day. So I've got a couple of questions here that I will go ahead and answer, and then we will go ahead and wrap it up. So the first question, would an employer of record agent headquartered out of state but working with a contracted business representative in Alameda County meet the requirements to apply? Without knowing more specifics based solely on what is here in this question, the answer is yes. As long as you are able to provide the services and perform the responsibilities, yes. Next question. Are contractor staff expected to work on site at the same location as ACWDB staff and their related service providers? No. There is an expectation and requirement that you will coordinate, work closely with ACWDB staff and service providers, but you do not need to be on site or co-located. So, okay. Oh, we got one more coming in, looks like. We'll do this one more that's typing, and then we will close out this session. And again, there is another session this afternoon, and all are welcome to join. Again, if you have follow-up questions, or you can, again, just submit them, and we'll include them in our Q&A addendum next week. Are the volumes of transactions as indicated in the RFP docs static or varying at different times? So in the RFP itself, we included basically an estimate of the number of ITAs, OJTs, and a baseline number of project employees that we anticipate, again, based on sort of average volume over several years. And again, that's sort of the baseline for the WIOA funding. As I've mentioned, if we do have additional discretionary grants that come through, the employer of record and contracting vendor pay agent role would That role would apply to any grants that the Workforce Board has. So there could be expansion and additional services that we would request, and that would be negotiated in essence for any additional projects. Okay, I'm going to put my financial manager hat on here for a minute. These are not fees. So that's very important in terms of a distinction. We want to know what the cost to you, your projected cost for providing these services is. It cannot be a fee. It cannot be a percentage. So I want to make that pretty clear. We are not capping the amount. We are, for the purposes of the budget, what we are saying is, if we ask you as an organization to provide approximately $1.1 million in services, how much would it cost your organization to do that volume of work? We are not saying it can't be more than fill in the blank number. We're just saying in your budget, if we request $1.1 million worth of services, how much would that cost you in terms of staffing and then non-personnel costs? Okay. All right. So with that, I'm going to let you all go. I appreciate you coming. I appreciate your time and your efforts, and I look forward to seeing your proposals. So thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.
And Susan, I believe you just joined. Oh, and she left. I was gonna let her know about the PM sesh, but
Okay.
she left.
All right. I'm going to
Cool.
end the event.
Perfect. You beat me to it.
All right.
Jennifer, I just want to
Yeah.
give you a big thanks. I think you did a fantastic